From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's great to be with all of y'all this morning, Thursday, February 13th, 2025. Look, for all of you that may have the hopeless romantic in you, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. So please, for the sake of all things good, get your significant other something for Valentine's Day. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it should be from the heart. So just do that. Just a little bit. Because we, as a cyber and IT folks, you know, we don't always remember the dates. So that being said, happy Valentine's Day to everyone tomorrow. For everyone celebrating or not celebrating, happy National Single Awareness Day. That would be tomorrow as well, right? Because if you're single tomorrow, you're pretty much staying off of social media. And don't go out to restaurants and don't buy flowers. Because everything's like 5 times the price of what it would normally be. So just a bunch of ideas there about the commercialization of a day that shouldn't be just one day a year, but should be 365 days a year. And I'm lucky to have the queen of my household be just that for me, 365 days a year. So with that being said, packed show for all today. A lot to talk about, including an old Russian group making really big headways now in terms of targeting critical infrastructure. A lot around cybercrime and some crypto heists, as well as a payment outage in Israel. What's going on? We'll get to all of that on this morning's show. Coffee cup cheers for everyone tuning in, obviously being traveling and having to pre-record the show. I wasn't able to get my normal double espresso, but if you are in S4 today, last day of the show, come by, say hello. Let's have a double espresso in one of the lounges there. And I'd love to learn more about what you do and what you care about and why, how we can make the show better for all of y'all that actually take the time out of your day to tune in, listen, read, write, watch, and do the whole shebang for all of y'all. So coffee cup cheers. Let's get the show going here, folks. Seashell Blizzard, it's being tasked one of its subgroups with obtaining initial access to internet-facing infrastructure, hoping to establish long-term persistence in a bunch of targeted organizations. Those who don't know Seashell Blizzard may know them as Black Energy Light. So if you've ever taken like a SAND ICS class, we talk about Black Energy a lot in SANS. In fact, seeing the story this morning, I ran into Jason Christopher, a SANS instructor and Energy Impact Partners, one of the partners there at Energy Impact Partners. And I just emailed this to him right away, highlighted Black Energy and said, look who's back. In the class I took back, we talked a lot about Black Energy back in September, for if you all remember when I was in Vegas for the SANS training. And so these threat actors are known in espionage. These are folks that have been after the Kill Disk, the MEDOC, NotPetya, Foxblade, Prestige. The latter two are attacks that not a lot of people know unless you're in ICS and SCADA. So for people in S4, the news today will likely be hovering on the floor and in the hallways throughout the day. So Seashell Blizzard's been targeting critical infrastructure like ICS and SCADA systems in energy, water, government, manufacturing, military, telecom, and transportation. It's being really leveraged in military operations in the Ukraine. And if you recall, about 2 years ago when the Ukraine war started, we're nearly, I think, 3 years into the Ukraine-Russia war. Millions of dead people, and the human toll there is insufferable. But from a cybersecurity perspective, it's been very, very interesting to watch that. If you're watching what Russia does in a cybersecurity kind of offensive side, you're realizing the tactics to the games are changing. The tactics to the games change in cybersecurity, typically during military conflicts when it's unleashed. And once it's unleashed, you can't bring the box, you can't bring the ghost back into the box. It's out of the box and it's out there. That's what happened with Stuxnet, which was kind of like the blueprint for modern malware. From there, we're seeing kind of like, Black Energy and Kill Disk and all of these, all modern malware that have come into our lives through nation-state operations, targeting adversary nations during either some sort of kinetic or actual physical warfare. And this is what we're seeing here with Seashell. And this is, again, the warning shot here isn't what does this have to do with me? Because if you don't operate in Russia or the Ukraine, which most people that tune into the show don't, right? This doesn't have that big of an impact. However, the TTPs of this do matter. The tools and the way they operated these tools do matter when it comes to threat hunting, when it comes to the ability to actually build resilience. And as a CISO, you're never looking at the fire of today, but I'm looking at the fire 3 years from now. And at the rate we're adopting tech and the rate of generative AI and quantum computing, these things are really, really going to be significant. And if we don't start planning for them now, we're really going to find ourselves at the low end there, just getting hammered. And the scapegoat in the S will really come back at that point. And you're not a scapegoat at that point. You're just blind to the fact that you're not predicting these threats, that you're not preparing, that you're not building a resilience playbook of how to deal with these threats once they move from nation state to threat actors. And we'll get to that in just a minute, because I'm going to connect the dots for you on today's show. It's one of those shows. So for the past 4 years, the subgroup Seashell Blizzard has been engaged in broad initial access operations, referred to as the Bad Pilot Campaign, with the purpose of establishing persistence within high-value targets in support of tailored networks, at least since 2021. Again, the war in the Ukraine, the invasion by Russia, and then the subsequent war that's been ongoing that hopefully will end now after the conversations President Trump had yesterday with President Putin and President Zelensky and the administration and the folks going out there to negotiate a ceasefire and a potential peace pact there to end that war, that bloodshed, allow Ukrainians to go back to their homes and rebuild their country, as well as allow the Russians to reclaim their country as well, and hopefully be able to enter a better future for their nation. So the subgroup has now expanded its list of targets. They're taking advantage of exploitation vulnerabilities in the ConnectWise Secure Connect, that's CVE 2024-1709er, and the Fortinet FortiCloud EMS, that's CVE 2023-48788. And again, both of those old CVEs that a lot of times don't go unpatched, or it takes you 7 or 8 months to patch them because of a multitude of reasons. And I understand it. I'm not judging, right? Because I understand how difficult patching is in ICS and SCADA, but so do our adversaries. And so there's always that thing of mitigation. So it relies on direct scanning from third-party web services to discover internet-facing or small office, home office type of enterprise networks impacted by Screen Connect and FortiClient, as well as Zimbra, OpenFire, TeamCity, Outlook, and JBoss. So Microsoft also observed the subgroup making malicious modification to network resources like OWA sign-in pages and DNS configurations to passively gather network credentials, again, maintaining long-term persistence. So if you discover X, I'm still able to get in through Y, and when you discover Y, I'll be able to get in through W, but I'm in and I'm staying in for as long as I possibly can. Go back to SolarWinds. That was the Russian MO there. Given the Seashell Blizzard is Russia's cyber tip of the spear in Ukraine, Microsoft assesses that the Access subgroup will continue to innovate new horizontally scalable techniques to compromise networks both in Ukraine and globally in support of Russian military objectives. #true. The decentralized moneylender Zklend suffered a breach in a crypto heist when threat actors exploited a smart contract flaw to steal 3,600 Ethereums worth around $9.5 million. Zklend is a decentralized money market protocol built on Starknet, which is a layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum. It enables users to deposit, borrow, and lend a whole slew of various assets. The attacker manipulated the lending accumulator at the very large and obviously here there's a whole smart contract numbers here. I'm not going to read those off for everyone watching. You can see them on the screen, and I'll make sure to paste this into our Substack at cyberhubpodcast.com, and you can actually see it there if you want to. So Starkware, who developed the Starknet network, confirmed that the vulnerability was not part of Starknet technology, but rather an application-specific bug. According to Cyvers, the threat actor attempted to launder the crypto through a Railgun privacy protocol, but was blocked due to protocol privacy. So the Zklend said, keep 10% of the funds as a white hat bounty. Send us back the 90% or 3,300 Ethereums to be exact to this address, and all will be forgiven. We'll see if this actually happens. We'll keep you appraised when that happens. Now let's go back to cybercrime for just a second here, right? So we saw crypto. We talked about what Russia's doing. Munich Cybersecurity Conference, by the way, thoughts and prayers out to the community of Munich. A ramming attack there just a few hours ago, allegedly 15 hurt. We don't know the data is still scarce coming out of that ahead of the Munich Security Conference that starts today, I believe, in Munich. So Google Threat Intelligence Group and Mandiant Research covers their investigation throughout 2024 and observations from the last few years, saying cybercrime continues to expand and evolve and become a national security level threat that's enabling more attacks by state-backed groups. According to that report, Mandiant Consultant responded to almost 4 times as many intrusions conducted by financially motivated actors than state-backed intrusions. Against the decentralized model of that is there also, as things were picking up, a lot of these groups who are kind of lend out, meaning a nation state may hire them as an initial access broker as part of a greater system to inflict something while they're trying to get something on the back end. They allow them to keep the money, they pay them as well. There's a whole slew thing there. The vast cybercrime ecosystem has acted as an accelerant for state-sponsored attacks. They're providing malware, vulnerabilities, and in some cases, even full-spectrum operations to states. According to Ben Reed, the senior manager at Google Threat Intelligence Group, these capabilities can be cheaper and more deniable than those developed directly by the state, and states like to use them because it gives them plausible deniability. Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea have their own way brought cyber criminals into the fold to support various initiatives and operations like ABT 4429, UNC 2589, and Turla have all shown evidence of exploiting information or access obtained by criminal organization once they get access. And again, plausible deniability. In a lot of cases, it's someone within there that's leading the other groups, but they're not really directly related to these nation-state motivated groups, so they have that plausible deniability. Cybercrime continues to rise, and you're constantly seeing that. That's where we connected the pieces with what Russia is doing in Seashell and what we're seeing in cybercrime. We're seeing the two interconnect. And this is where we as practitioners need to connect the dots. So that'll be part of my Saturday article this week. Make sure you go and sign up at cyberhubpodcast.com. A relatively new ransomware operation named Sarcoma is claiming responsibility for an attack against a Unimacron printed circuit board maker in Taiwan. That's PCB boards, for those who don't know. Very, very important part of our supply chain for anything electronic. The criminals published samples of files allegedly stolen from the company's system during the attack and threatened to leak everything next week if a ransom is not paid. If a new listing added to Sarcoma's leak site yesterday, the threat actor is claimed to be holding 377 gigabytes of SQL files and documents exfiltrated from the Taiwanese company. Unimacron is a public company manufacturing rigid and flexible PCBs and high-density interconnection boards and integrated circuit carriers. The company is one of the largest PCB manufacturers in the world. They obviously have service centers in Taiwan, China, Germany, and Japan. Its products are extensively used in LDC monitors, computers, peripherals, and smartphones. They've disclosed in a bulletin in the Taiwanese Stock Exchange portal on February 1st that they suffered a disruption from a ransomware attack. According to the statement, the incident occurred on January 30th and impacted the Unimacron Technology Corp in Shenzhen, China, its Chinese subsidiary. So there's that. And again, manufacturing a prime target and continues to be a prime target, because any sort of operation every minute they're not producing, they're losing money. So they're more likely to give in, unfortunately, and pay a ransom to get their operations back up and running. The Japanese government is on a mission to catch up to U.S. national security preparedness standards, and it's just passing a bold legislation aimed at bolstering the country's cyber response capabilities. The two articles of legislation constitute what's referred to by many of us as active cyber defense, which will enable the Japanese government to take more aggressive measures to stop cyber attacks before they can cause widespread damage. After some delays, the bill was finally presented and approved by the country's leading Liberal Democratic Party. Last month, on February 7th, it was approved by the cabinet, which consists of the prime minister and up to 19 other ministers, and was in turn submitted to the National Diet, Japan's parliament. The passage of the law follows a warning in January from Japan's national police that Chinese-backed threat actor Mirrorface has been committing wide-scale cyber espionage since 2019. The country is grappling with the threats from China, Russia, and North Korea. The overhaul of Japan's cyber readiness efforts dates back to at least April of 2022 as a wake-up call to the country, and we'll see how they're able to implement an active cyber defense. They're trying to catch up to the rest of the world, and when the Japanese are racing, they tend to move really, really fast. So interested to see how this is happening. Increased hacker activity has been observed in attempts to compromise poorly maintained devices that are vulnerable to older security issues from at least 2022 and 2023, like we saw with Seashell Blizzard. They're going after old, unpatched systems. The same applies here. Grey Noise is now reporting spikes in actors leveraging CVE 2022 479.45 and CVE 2023 49103 that affect the Think PHP framework and the open source own cloud solution for file sharing and syncing. Again, data theft, data loss, ransomware, the ability to try to blackmail or sell that data. The first vulnerability is a local file inclusion issue in the language perimeter of Think PHP framework before 6.0.14. So if you're on that version or anything before that, you want to make sure you get up, you patch that up to the latest in order to solve this specific vulnerability. And it's a low complexity attack. An unauthenticated remote attacker could leverage it to execute arbitrary OS commands in deployment where the language pack feature is enabled. According to threat monitoring platform Greynoise CVE 2022, 479.045 is under high volume exploitation right now, with attacks launched from a growing number of sourced IPs. So if this is one of yours, you want to make sure you address it. And this has obviously been listed in the KEF catalog, one of the most exploited vulnerabilities in 2023. So please, for the sake of all things great, patch it up. Israelis woke up this morning without the ability to be able to use credit card transactions. According to Sheva, the automated banking services, the company responsible for Israel's automated banking and payment infrastructure, there was a malfunction. I can now tell you that this is not a news story. This is a fairly old, this is kind of like the breaking news version of this. But I can tell you now that this is confirmed to be a cyber attack on the payment system in Israel. And hopefully on Monday, we'll have a lot more information. We'll be able to bring you that to all of y'all there. But again, for a few hours in Israel, people could not use their credit cards. That's why cash will always be king. Let's get to some vulnerabilities. Palo Alto on Wednesday publishing 10 new security advisories to inform customers about the impact of new and previously known vulnerabilities on their product. One of the most important flaws seems to be CVE 2025-0108. It's a PAN-OS issue that allows an unauthenticated attacker with network access to the targeted firewall's management interface to bypass authentication and invoke certain PHP scripts. So you want to make sure you get that patched up ASAP. If you're a Palo shop, Ivanti and Fortinet for their end respectively rolled out some patches. Ivanti rolled out 11 fixes, and there's one fix with Ivanti. Rip it out. Rip it. My God. They're still like fixing stuff. All right. So Ivanti rolled out 11 security defects across Connect Secure, Policy Secure, Secure Access Client, and Neurons for MDM and Cloud Services applications. If the 8 bugs are resolved, there are critical severity flaws that could allow remote attackers to write arbitrary files and execute arbitrary code, meaning, guess what? You're going to have to patch these up. And if you can't patch up your Ivanti, I have a great idea. There's a garbage cans. They're typically either green, black, or other color. Rip it out the wall. Replace it with anything else, and go on with your life and live happy and be merry and multiply. Also, Fortinet, for their end, published 14 security advisories describing flaws in FortiOS, FortiPortal, FortiAnalyzer, FortiManager, and several other products. The most severe, though, CVE 2025 24470. It's got a CVSS score of 8.1. It's a FortiPortal bug that would enable a remote unauthenticated attacker to retrieve source code. And CVE 2024-405901 is an incorrect privilege assignment flaw in the FortiOS security fabric that could allow an attacker logged in as an admin to escalate their privileges to super admin. And again, that flaw meaning someone has to be actually logged in. So that, like, CVE 405901 for me is more of an internal threat rather than an external threat, because someone's got to be logged in as an admin in order to become a super admin. And so just keep that in mind. Get your 40 stuff updated. President Donald Trump plans to nominate Sean Karanokros, a former official at the RNC, as the next national cyber director, according to the list of planned nominees obtained by the folks over at Cybersecurity Dive and everywhere else. Karen Cross previously worked as CEO of the Millennium Challenge Corp, which was an independent government agency. The guy doesn't seem to have a lot of cyber background, so it's a very interesting, and I'm not sure what this person would be bringing to the table in terms of really helping establish cyber policy. I mean, he is a policy person. The question is, does he understand cyber and policy, and can he connect the dots? Remains to be seen. I'm skeptical about this appointment by President Trump. I'm extremely surprised. I'm hoping that having people like Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard in the administration, and some others will be able to help lead the cyber director in a positive role. And obviously, CISA has yet to get a replacement, so we'll see that appointment as it becomes available. But again, slow on the cyber side, getting a little concerned, like many people here, kind of looking for some sort of hope and ray of sunshine from the Trump administration as to their focus on cyber. I still haven't seen it. I hope to see it very, very soon. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back on Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest. Until then, happy Valentine's Day. Have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.